Welcome to Deal Roll Connect. Today we're going to take a look at our favorite, Prince Ali, Fabulous He, Ali Ababwa. Now, for a quick disclaimer, I'm going to be looking at this character with all skills in mind. When you play a character on the early chapters, some abilities may not be accessible. Make sure you play the earlier chapters if you're unfamiliar with how this game works, as they do a great job of explaining the mechanics of this game. Our guide should still give you a heads up on how to use his cards and skills. Also, I'm focusing on the 3v3 game with 2 players, as opposed to the 4v4 game with 4 players. Let me know if you want a video discussing the main differences between those 2 modes. Aladdin shines as an accomplished thief. He moves quickly and quietly to strike and rob his opponent of the cards that they value. His primary status effect is stealthy. When a character is stealthy, the opponent must banish a card to attack that character. Now, make way for Prince Ali and his character card. Like most characters, Aladdin can attack for 2 damage and provides 2 cards to his hand size. However, he has the unique benefit of 3 as his movement. He's quite tricky to catch, so he can sneak in and out quickly. He has 9 HP and 6 VP. He's a bit of a target, but they had to make the reward worthwhile if you can catch him. Between his movement, his health, and his stealthiness, knocking him out is easier said than done. Aladdin has 2 skills for you to choose from. One jump ahead allows you to discard 1 movement card in exchange for gaining 1 stealthy. This is really useful to keep up the pressure on your opponent by keeping Aladdin stealthy. The primary issue with this skill is that there aren't always movement cards available to use, as they tend to be more rare. Alternatively, you can go with Thief's Cure. This reveals the top card in a rival's deck. If that card matches a character next to Aladdin, then Aladdin gains 1 HP. You don't usually get the option to choose when it comes to your skill, but I typically take Stealthy if I can believe that Aladdin will be targeted, or if I have a movement card to give. Otherwise, I try to heal. His upgrade is the Sleight of Hand. At the end of his action phase, if Al has Stealthy and is next to a rival, then that summoner banishes the top card in their deck while you can draw a card. If you can maintain Stealthy, and it's not as easy as it looks, then you can maintain a significant card advantage. Getting an extra draw and banishing cards from your opponent's deck will accelerate your upgrades while slowing down your opponent's path. It's well worth it if you can keep the status effect. So, let's go through Aladdin's cards and break it down a little further. I'll be going from most common to least common, as some cards appear in the deck multiple times. The most common card for Aladdin is the Street Rat Strike. There are 3 of them, and it's pretty straightforward. It does 3 damage to an adjacent rival, but if they have more cards in hand than you do, it does 4 damage. Aladdin takes from those who have more than he does. If your opponent is trying to keep their hand full, this makes them think twice. Not only that, but since you can use your skill and movement phase before your action phase, you may have the ability to adjust your hand size to be 1 less than your opponent in certain circumstances. You have 2 copies of Dash Through Crowds. It allows you to go 4 spaces and pass through rivals. If you do, that summoner takes a random card from their hand and puts it on top of their deck. It's rare to move 4 spaces. However, this has the added benefit of wasting your rival's next card draw. I know you'll be tempted to use this card to gain Stealthy, but sometimes it'll be best to use this card as is. His last 5 cards only have 1 copy each. Disarm does 2 damage to an adjacent rival. Your opponent then reveals their hand, and you choose 1 card that matches the damaged rival to shuffle back into their deck. The damage is fine, but the real benefit comes twofold. First, you get to see your opponent's entire hand, which is rare. Second, you can remove a card from their hand, if the rival has a card in their hand. It's a great chance to get an informational advantage over your opponent, so that you can plan ahead. Carpet Sweep is a damaging movement card. It can be used as a movement or action card. You move 3 spaces and can move through rivals this way. Each rival you move through gets damaged indirectly. It's a versatile card that allows you to do additional damage on top of your action phase. Or, you can have that be your action phase and potentially move up to 6 spaces. Cards that can be used during movement or action phases give you opportunities to be less predictable. Speaking of those, the next card is similar. Stun and Run deals 2 damage and gives 2 Immobilize to an adjacent rival. Then you move 1 space. This gives you the chance to move away from danger. It also gives you the chance to do 4 to 5 damage to that rival if paired with a standard attack. Do not underestimate the value of Immobilized, as it keeps your rival in a predictable spot. Blend into the Bazaar is Aladdin's other method of gaining stealthy. It only allows you to move 2 spaces, but gaining stealthy for that is worth losing 1 space. Stealthy works well with Aladdin because it forces your opponent to make additional sacrifices in order to hit our thief. Bold Thievery has your adjacent rival banish a random card while you get to draw 1 card and move 2 spaces. This is quite the advantage and works to further put you into a better position with your hand. Unless you're in danger, I would not sacrifice this to gain a stealthy, as you get movement, card draw, and banish your opponent's card. Aladdin certainly has the tools to make a splash in this game, as long as you understand that his role isn't to be an offensive juggernaut. Aladdin is skilled at moving quickly and disrupting the opponent's plans. Most of the time, opponents are hesitant to hit stealthy characters because it costs them extra cards. Aladdin is a good character to use if you want the beginners in your life to start thinking beyond damage. Regardless of if you're going up against Aladdin or if you're using him, it's a great chance to teach them about resource management. His strengths lie in the fact that he has high movement, his stealthy makes Aladdin less of a target, and he reduces opponents' hand size and their upgrade opportunities. His weaknesses, however, are the fact that he has mediocre offensive capabilities, the fact that he's worth more VP, and his reliance on movement cards. Because while his deck has a healthy supply of movement cards, there aren't a lot of those in most decks, and he needs them if he's going to maintain his stealth. Aladdin can feel normal to underwhelming if you aren't trying to keep him stealthy or reduce your opponent's hand. Still, this thief can rob your rivals blind. He may not have a genie, but he can make rivals wish they had more cards. Aladdin can be a good last addition to a team, but he is best utilized when you lean into either his status effects or banishing your opponent's cards. With that in mind, I would suggest the following for team combinations. Team 1, Aladdin, Ariel, and Gaston. Each member has a specific role in this team. Gaston is the offense and the center of attention. Aladdin will stealthily move around and take cards from the opponent, giving them fewer options to deal with Gaston. Ariel will heal whoever needs it most, usually Gaston, to sustain momentum and deal with status effects. Aladdin shines ironically when he's not the focus. He does his job in the shadows. Team 2, Dr. Facilier, Aladdin, and Gaston. Every single person on this team has tools to banish cards from the opponent. When Facilier and Aladdin are using their tricks, and the opponent is dealing with Gaston's brawler while being flustered, your opponent will constantly run out of cards and options. Facilier and Gaston do have the same upgrade path, so you'll need to figure out whichever one is best to upgrade based on whether Gaston's offense or Facilier's status effects are more effective to that point. Now, I know both of these teams included Gaston, but he's not really necessary to make Aladdin work. If you have a duo that you like, and you're looking for a third to throw in, consider giving Aladdin a shot. It could be Sully and Maleficent, or even Mickey and Facilier. You have a bit more freedom with Prince Ali. So, that's our breakdown of Aladdin. Thanks for joining us. Make sure to stick around for our next breakdown. But until then, remember, sometimes, princess, sometimes you just have to take a risk. See you next time.